So, how did you use media technologies in the construction and research and planning and evaluation stages? So, throughout the process of my coursework, technology has played a huge role within it. I will be discussing what I used, how they helped and challenged me, what I learnt and how I used them. So, starting with a very prominent technology I've used throughout the whole process, Premiere Pro. So starting off with research and planning. Starting with my main and constant use, Adobe Premiere Pro. So what exactly is it and what was its purpose during my coursework? Premiere Pro is a timeline-based editing software and application, including video editing, graphic design and web development programs. As the majority of my research and planning consists of video blog posts, Premiere Pro played a huge part in making my videos to become a more creative and higher standard. So how exactly did I use it? So if I was editing just a regular video, I would start by importing all my previously recorded video files into the program by simply just dragging them in after importing them onto the iMac. Once imported, I can then start to edit my raw footage. I usually began by using the razor tool to cut any unwanted footage out. This was usually mistakes while filming, for example, mispronounced words or slip-ups. If I was editing a voiceover narrative, for example, the second stage would be to gather any film or television scenes that I mentioned in the video. This was done by recording the screen and launching QuickTime Player when viewing the wanted clip on YouTube. I then imported that into Premiere Pro and cut the part I wanted again using the razor tool. The third stage was titles. This was simply done by using the toolbar on the top, adding in your writing font and colour, and positioning and sizing it to where you wanted it, then dragging it into your desired place. I mostly use this kind of thing for audience research, so the viewer could read the question. I also added transition effects in where the titles were to make it seem smoother and more appealing. My most used effect was crossfade. The last stage was to add music. This was to liven up the video and to add character. This was done by converting a piece of music of my choice to an MP3 file and importing it into my current edit. To have an even balance between audio and music, adjusting the volume was done by right-clicking and changing the audio gain up or down. I also had to use effects such as fade out at the end or using constant gain to allow the track to flow well. Once this was complete, it was only a matter of rendering, exporting and uploading to YouTube. I also used Premiere Pro for my main ancillary task for my film. So for my film, Premiere Pro was one of my main sources of input. After weeks of shooting, I was ready to import all my hard work onto Premiere Pro. I started out by putting all of my clips in order and taking anything out I didn't want to use with the razor tool. After watching it back several times, I realised I needed to do something with the premonitions. If this was an effect or some sort of colour grade, it needed to be more dreamlike and clear to the audience that the man was experiencing premonitions. I was inspired by Kill Bill to do double exposure, which led me to layering the premonition footage over the top of each other to create an odd and unusual effect. I learnt how to do it by watching YouTube tutorials, which was by placing the two clips on top of each other on the timeline, selecting one and going into effect controls to adjust the opacity downwards so the other clip was seen. After applying this to the areas I wanted, I then went on to creating my split screen. This was pretty easy. I again layered the two clips I wanted together and moved them onto the screen, adjusting and cropping them so they were side to side with a black line separating them. This was an effective editing technique to make the man's day seem long and hard working. As well as these, I used the software's effects such as crossfades and fades to black to give the scene smoother transitions. The last main feature I used on Premiere Pro was the colour correcting and grading. Colour grading is extremely important in film as it sets the mood to the film, giving it a cinematic look. For example, in The Thriller 7, the grading is dull and grey, making it seem lifeless. I was influenced for my own and added cool tones and greys, giving it a depressing appeal and atmosphere. I also adjusted the saturation, taking it down to give it a lifeless look. Premiere Pro was one of the most time-consuming processes. However, without it, I wouldn't have been able to complete my coursework efficiently. I have learned a huge amount, which was simply done with practice and YouTube tutorials. Having this access to professional editing software allowed my film to come across more professional and sleek. It has also allowed my interest widen in this area and allowed my creativity to come through. So moving on to camera equipment. Throughout the whole process, I've always used my Canon 1200D DSLR. I've learned a huge amount this year about digital cameras such as depth of field and aperture. Knowing your camera inside out is extremely important, as you have to be able to know what looks right and know how to operate your camera. I wanted smooth focuses and a variety of depth of fields. After switching my camera into manual focus, I could then get used to using the focus ring properly. I soon learned how to come in and out of focus smoothly, which helped create a professionalism to my film. An element that challenged me was getting the ISO setting right. This was difficult as I used red lighting, which created a dark and dim lit room, which caused the problem of a noise in my clips. I could either adjust my ISO setting so it was dark without noise or light with noise. I chose the light option as I knew I could remove some of the noise through editing, which I will explain later how it was done. Even though this was one of the main stress factors during the making of my film, adjusting the ISO setting helped considerably, as without it I wouldn't have achieved the correct colours or brightness I wanted to capture. My camera equipment included a shoulder rig, a tripod for stability, and a Rode mic for cleaner and better sound quality. These three pieces of equipment were vital in my stages of production, as without them I wouldn't have created a high-level piece of work. So starting with my shoulder rig. This is a camera stabiliser or camera stabilising mount. It is a device designed to hold a camera in a manner that prevents unwanted camera movement, such as camera shake. It mechanically shifts the weight of the camera to the operator's shoulder. This allows for smoother shots that aren't possible by handheld operation. They are typically padded for comfort and allow the attachment of zoom controllers, transmitters and other related devices. Mine had a fuller focus which was extremely helpful during filming. I used this shoulder rig pretty much all the way through, enabling me to create a professionalism to my work. The tripod shots were also used in establishing shots at the end and mid shots where the man is looking on his laptop and newspapers. My tripod guarantees stability, and I used it for these shots as I didn't want any movement at all, such as moving towards or away from the character like I did with the other shots using my shoulder rig. And lastly, the Rode mic. It improved the audio in my film significantly, even though I had many difficulties with it. These were from the fact that my camera didn't have a mic input, which meant I had to use an extra Sony recorder which was inserted and recorded through the Rode mic. This caused many problems such as extra cutting out and syncing up with the audio with the video clips. I also had a lot of wind damage in the outside shots, which led to re-recording audio which was extremely difficult to do. However, regardless of this extra work and problems, I am happy with the result of my audio and believe it adds a more realistic feel to my film, creating a sense of expertise. It also created a larger impact on my film as it was effective in drawing my audience in further. Knowing a wide range of camera techniques and shots is also important. I have learned most cinematography shots and techniques over the past 2 years from lessons, but the majority of it was just constant reading online and looking at tutorials. If you familiarise yourself with these kind of shots on a regular basis, they pretty much become second nature, and on the day of shooting you know what you want to achieve. Next up is After Effects. This editing software played a huge role in improving the noise grain in my film, as I mentioned earlier. Adobe After Effects is a digital visual effects motion graphics application developed by Adobe Systems and used in their post-production process of filmmaking and television production. As I said earlier, one of my main issues was the harsh noise grain I had caused by my dim lighting and ISO settings. However, After Effects helped me reduce the grain quite significantly. This was a matter of having an even balance between noise reduction, high pass, fine tuning and sharpness. Adjusting these settings allowed the noisy video to be reduced, where it isn't so grainy and noticeable. This was an extremely stressful time period, as I was told by many there wasn't much I could do, but luckily after scouring the internet I found tutorials that taught me how to make those clips less noisy. Okay, WordPress. WordPress is a worldwide and open blogging site and system with a paid and free version. The blog is obviously a very important part within my coursework, and this is the way my videos and posts were presented to the examiner or audience. I decided to use WordPress over Blogger as it is definitely more flexible and gives you more options. The main option is appearance. WordPress has a wide variety of themes to choose from and allows you to customise freely. However, with something like Blogger, you are more restricted on the look you want. I have got the Intergalactic theme, which allows my work to be displayed in a classic black and white sophisticated way. This theme also allows header images, giving indication to what the video or blog post may be about. While writing up your post, it gives you the options to change the size and colour. This also includes bold, italics, underline, bullet points and numbering. The site also allows pictures to be inserted in your work. However, this was an issue for me as it was hard to size and move them around to fit evenly around the writing. If I wanted to insert a video for a post, I would do this by copying the link of the video and pasting into the HTML section, allowing the video to be shared into WordPress and my blog. Overall, WordPress played a significant part in the process of technology. Without it, I wouldn't be able to display my coursework in a creative way. So, YouTube. YouTube is a video sharing site and was used in my media coursework to display my video posts. I chose this video sharing site as it is the most well known, simplest to use and fastest. It also links extremely well with my blog and WordPress, meaning it is easy to navigate around. The site has an easy drag and drop system to upload with, where you simply just drop your video file in it and uploads it automatically for you pretty quickly. This is extremely convenient for students like myself who need to meet tight deadlines. Okay, and finally, iMacs. Lastly, I use an iMac. This is a desktop computer designed and created by Apple. It is industry and professional standard, allowing our work to be at a higher level. I have learnt so much this past year how to use Macs, and I can confidently say that I know my way around it pretty easily. So yeah, that is my evaluation question 4. It's my last evaluation question. I very much hope you enjoyed this, and thank you very much.